Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. But I gotta give you a fair warning up front. We aren't starting with some standard, dry lesson today. Actually, scratch that. It's more like we're taking a descent straight into the void. We're going to explore a really grim, dark fable, narrated from the very shadows where human ambition goes to burn. We are unpacking the Fijian dialectic of the sovereign mind, and, well, its ultimate tragic failure.
So let's start with this chilling observation from the shadow, because it perfectly frames our dark fable today. The core theme we're unpacking is how the relentless pursuit of a flawless absolute, this perfect, totally untethered existence, leads to, well, terminal silence. We often think that escaping our earthly tethers brings ultimate freedom, but as we're going to see, it might actually just bring starvation of the soul.
Chapter 1. The Morning Star Paradox. We begin our descent into the uncanny mirror universe by looking at the star of high time. This is literally the ultimate ontological trap. So, the Fichtean dialectic relies on the friction between the self, the ich, and the obstacle, the not I. But this star, it masks itself as the absolute not I, this void of completely detached perfection that just removes all friction. Seekers mistake this parched silence for spiritual fulfillment. They think they're hitting enlightenment, but what the star actually offers is just suspended stagnation. It is quite literally the peace of the cemetery. And this dual identity brilliantly illustrates the deception. We have what's known as the vanishing point. To human ambition, this star appears as a divine morning star, signaling this glorious new beginning. But to human fear, it's the fallen adversary. It's the abyss itself. At that vanishing point, the pursuit of the highest good becomes completely indistinguishable from an absolute vacuum. It's like you reach the very top of the mountain only to find there is absolutely no oxygen left to breathe.
Chapter 2. Victims of the Void.
We really have to talk about this grim roster of those who surrendered their vulnerability for this destructive light. These aren't just characters, they're archetypes of our own misguided ambitions. Take the Clockwork Sovereign, for instance. He sought absolute data, this promised hour of perfection to conquer human vulnerability. But what happened? The star's light triggered a thermal volatilization of his spirit. He literally evaporated into a hollow shell of sterile logic. Then we have the Pale Inquisitor, reduced to an ink blot of negation, total self-erasure. And the Vampire Sovereign? Trapped in a saline nightmare of material desiccation. The pursuit of flawlessness utterly destroys the very vessel that seeks it. Chapter 3. The Ash-Strewn Hearth. Now we witness the highly specific, tragic descent of our central figure, the Wanderer. The vertical sun has bleached everything. The gilded cherubim, the maps of the fathers, all turned to a colorless, biting salt. He abandons ancient gods, only to scavenge the ruins of the past to see if any spark of vitality remains. He mistakenly hears the voice of a sovereign law within the absolute silence of the furnace, wandering blindly through the ash of a destroyed frame. This is the ultimate tragedy of the unowned mind. He's torn down the old world, but he possesses absolutely zero skill to build a new horizon. He's just scavenging the cooling embers of ancient lies. Chapter 4. The Etymological Blade. And so the descent continues. We find the Wanderer kneeling in the bone-white dust, right? He's performing this intellectual salvage operation to dissect morality itself. With a jagged quill, he carves the very concept of good into bloody, unrecognizable pieces. He thinks he's this grand restorer, peeling back layers of moral paint to find the absolute truth. But he uncovers nothing but a blank, weeping canvas that has totally forgotten its original name. He thinks he's performing surgery on the soul, but he's really just digging up a graveyard of terms that no longer command the human spirit. I really have to ask you, with a bit of a cynical laugh, is this truly mastery? When you own a vocabulary that has been reduced to etymological scrap, what do you actually have? The Wanderer hasn't found the bedrock of truth. He has merely salvaged the rusted hinges of a door that once led to a sanctuary. He's deconstructed meaning so thoroughly that there's just nothing left to say. Chapter 5. The White Scream. The great noon finally arrives. The Wanderer stands at the peak, carrying a vellum, but there are no profound words on it. It is nothing but a white scream. He claims he's going to write grand concepts like becoming and mastery. But his tabula rasa, a blank slate, demands an immense weight of meaning, and a solitary hand just cannot provide that in a terminally silent universe. I mean, a peak without a myth is just a jagged tooth of indifferent stone. He's discarded the maps of the fathers but possesses only the emptiness of a refugee's hunger.
His ink isn't profound truth. It is literally only the sweat of his own absolute isolation and the salt of the dust.
Chapter 6. The Dead God's Ornament. At the exact stroke of the great noon, the vertical light of the star strikes the wanderer's skull, completely erasing the last dark shelter of his weary pride. This is it, the pathetic zenith of the sovereign mind. He stands entirely alone amidst the wreckage of ancient superstitions. He wanted to be a pioneer, but he has become the pioneer of a future that is utterly unknowable. As the shadow cries out, he is a master of the void, ruling over absolutely nothing. Instead of amor fati, the love of fate, he roars odium fati to the sky, a hatred of fate. The dawn he fought so incredibly hard to reach is just a cold breath of winter. His salvaged values, they're nothing more than broken ornaments resting on the neck of a dead god. It's the final, desperate salvage operation of a spirit with literally nothing left to lose. Chapter 7. Embrace the Obsidian Sea. So, to truly understand why this whole intellectual pursuit was doomed from the start, we have to look to the truth-telling monster's devastating critique of Baron von Nicht's Void Ledger. He exposes the ontological trap right here. On one side, you have the holy whole, which is sterile perfection. It's the language of perfect silence that contains zero noise because it has consumed all possibility of being. On the other side, you have true Fichteinian existence, the absolute Ich. This requires the savage root. It requires the obsidian sea. It absolutely demands the messy friction of struggle just to breathe. The truth-telling monster begs us not to trade our blood and our human vulnerability for a sterile law that saves no one. The trap of the morning star is spiritual suicide disguised as perfection. Instead, we have to embrace the savage root. Our struggle, our friction, even our suffering. These aren't flaws we need to erase. They are the sacred ingredients required for a heroic affirmation of life. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you looking inward. The Wanderer sought absolute mastery and found only ashes. The Clockwork Sovereign sought pure logic and evaporated. So I leave you with this provocative thought. As you ruthlessly try to optimize yourself, eradicate your flaws, and escape your own vulnerabilities, are you actually building a perfect life? Or are you just descending into the void, constructing a very beautiful, very quiet cemetery? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and whatever you do, embrace the friction.